Hey guys, it's Presley and welcome to Cool Conversations with me, Presley, where we have the not so cool conversations with teens. And today we're here with the teen at heart, my mom. I am so excited to have her on my podcast. She is my most favorite person on the planet, so I'm very excited. Today's topic is communication, and I felt it was perfect to have her because, one, she is the person I communicate with literally the most, and in my opinion, I feel like she's the queen of communication. Communication is something that is very, very important to her, which we'll definitely talk about.
Yes.
So I'm super excited to have you here.
So happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. This is so weird for me. Okay.
These conversations usually happen in the car.
Yes. So most of the conversations that we have are in the car. And I feel like we probably have talked about a lot of this already because this is a topic that actually comes up a lot. Because, like I said, communication is very important to her. So it's definitely something that's become very important to me as well. So my question for you is, how would you describe good and effective communication? I feel like this is a really good place to start. So what do you think?
I think good and effective communication, I think the most important thing is honesty.
That's so true.
Yeah. And I feel like that's also the hardest thing. I do think the communication is really, really important, but I also do have a problem communicating on my own sometimes. Like I want people to communicate with me, but communication is hard.
It is hard. And I don't know. I think that you're pretty good at it, in my opinion.
Thanks.
I think that you've taught me from a very young age that communication is very important.
It's literally key.
It's key to everything, relationships, friendships, even
business,
our relationship, everything.
parents,
it's the most
kids.
important thing. I remember even something as silly as like when I was younger and I was on a dance team, she always told me it was super important to respond to every email that I got to show that you got it, and like that's like a good way of being communicative and just being professional. And that's just something that, so now I know, like I respond to every email I get, and that's just communication business. But even like responding to text messages, and even when I go places with my friends, like telling her that I get there okay, and that oh, we're leaving, we're going here. And like you said, honesty is also something that's super important, and
that's the hardest thing.
That's
right?
the hardest thing,
because a lot of the times when you're communicating, it's a lot of the times conversations that are hard to have. So being honest about what you're trying to communicate is hard, but you know,
it's very important.
I think that that's the most effective way. Because what's the point of communicating if you're not going to be honest, right? And
so
it's just
true.
a waste of time.
There's nothing she hates more than lying. She was like, no matter what it is, like, you're going to get in more trouble if you lie to me. So might as well just tell me the truth.
Yeah. And
so
I mean, you can't really help somebody if they're not communicating the truth to you. You can't help them with whatever the situation is, good or bad. I mean, I feel like
honesty.
Got to know what you're dealing with.
Got to know what you're dealing with. Okay. Oh, well, this question is kind of on the same thing, but what do you think are some of the challenges when communicating, besides obviously honesty? But like, what else do you think is like hard for people when they're communicating?
I think people have a hard time like letting their guard down maybe and showing their emotions. Yeah. Because a lot of the times I feel like when you're communicating, you're probably going to talk about something that is like either going on, you're upset about, you're mad about. Sure. And I feel like people are very guarded. So it's hard for people to let their guard down and have like a conversation. And, you know, you also, I think people are afraid of people judging them.
That's true.
So I think it's hard for people to say things sometimes because they're like, what is this other person going to think about what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, you're afraid to say something because you're like, what if I say this and they think whatever, if they judge me?
Yeah, that's the hardest part about it for me.
Yeah.
Because I have no problem, like, telling people, like, what I'm doing and, like, communicating like that.
You're a good communicator, I think.
Yeah, but when it comes to, like, my feelings and, like, emotionally, that's hard because I just don't like to be upset or angry, and I'd rather just, you know, push it down rather than like speak what I'm feeling, just because I don't want to have to like almost like deal with it, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I think so. And also people are afraid of rejection, right? So
oh my god, I hate it. It's so scary. I would rather just never know. I would rather never know.
It's just not the answer. That is not the answer at all. Like, that's so crazy.
It's just like I've been rejected maybe once. Worst worst feeling of my literal life. Like, I hate it. Never want to do it again.
We're still dealing with it now.
Yeah, it still haunts me. So probably won't communicate my feelings in that way for a very long time. But it's something that I'm working on, for sure. But
I think you're good. Like, I also think like apologizing is part of communication, and I think you're actually really good at that.
I just hate when people are mad or frustrated or upset with me, so I'll always apologize, and I'll always like even
you're good
if
at that.
I shouldn't be apologizing, I will anyways.
That's not
which is not the right answer.
No,
I also have a lot to learn here, so this is good for me to be talking about too, because I'm still a teen. I'm still going through all the same things, so I'm no professional. I'm going through the same thing.
Nobody is.
But
even at my age, I'm still learning. I learn a lot from you, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Thanks. Okay. Do you feel like you have a specific safe space to talk about your feelings? If so, who are they, and how did you create that space?
Okay, so, well, you obviously, but not that I don't like dump my feelings on you, but we do have really good conversations, and we don't always agree on the topic, certain things. I think different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes talking to you about things and vice versa, you talking to me, I'm like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that. Like that's, from an older, more experienced person. But I have a really great relationship with my parents. And I mean, I talk to them probably at least once or twice a day. And I always am still going to them for advice and, to help me sort things out or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. I think that's...
Yeah, my parents, I would
true.
say still, which, I've got a child of my own, so.
No, but we always call them for anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, my sister, my family, I have like really,
we're really close
good
with
relationships
our family,
with my
and we all
family.
have really great relationships. So like, I would say the same for me. Obviously you, Tolly, who's my dad, you guys are usually the first people I talk to, but same. It was my cousins. I'm really close with my cousins, and I talk to them about literally everything that's going on in my life.
Yeah.
Grandparents, my aunt, my uncle, everyone. I think that's...
You have some really good friends, though, too.
I do have really great friends, and I think that it's good because we're usually all going through something similar, so we can always talk about it, but I agree. I think family is probably the first place that
Family, I mean, also, like, sometimes it's a little scary talking to friends about like personal situations because I think you've cycled through a lot of different friendships, and I think you've learned maybe the hard way that not all relationships are what they present themselves to be in the beginning. Yeah. So, and I think sometimes I try to tell you to be a little bit more guarded with what you say to people. But I do think like your cousins are probably like your number one.
For sure. They've always been like the constant in my life because, like you said, I've gone through friendships, and not in a bad way, just like you grow apart and just as you get older, it's kind of just like a thing that happens. So but I've also had like my fair share of friendships. I'm like, oh, it's not what I thought it was. So that's also why I'm a little guarded in my communication now that I've gotten older, because I've seen things and I've been through like some rough stuff. So I just think that that's also why I'm a little guarded when it comes to talking about stuff like that. But that's why I think I go to my family first, because I know that they're always going to be like
for sure
in my life, for sure. So I agree. I think that we're pretty similar in that.
But I think our household is a very safe space. I think that honestly, even for your friends, I feel like our house is a very safe space for them too.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I feel like we talk about anything and everything
in
our house.
Literally everything. Like, I'm so grateful to have grown up in a house like that where I know I can talk about literally anything that I'm feeling and like never feel like judged or feel like there's something I can't talk about.
Yeah, no.
So I'm really grateful for that, and I agree. I think that my friends also know that. Like, my friends always come over and talk to my parents. Honestly, they probably like my parents better than they like me at this
I don't
point.
think so,
but they do know that they can talk to you guys about pretty much everything, and I think that that's something that's so cool, is that you make like everybody feel like okay to talk about whatever, and that you guys can talk. They can go to you for advice. I was looking for my words there, but okay. when communicating with your friends or just anyone, how do you make sure that you're actively listening and know that you're listening to them? Because I think that this is something that's super important.
Yes.
I love people that are good listeners because I hate when you're talking to somebody and like you feel like they literally are thinking about anything else. So what's something that you do to make sure people know that you're listening to them?
First, I think not interrupting, which is hard sometimes because when you're having a conversation with people, you want to like interject or say something. So I think it's like letting them finish their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then also not always like offering solutions, because sometimes people don't want solutions. Sometimes people just want to say what's on their mind. So I feel like listening and then also asking questions.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
And sorry, again.
No, you go. I was interrupting there. So
And
you go.
no, but also like I think also following up with people. Like if somebody came to you and they were like, "Oh, I'm going through this really hard time," and whatever, and then like I don't know, like in a couple days, like kind of just like check in with them and be like, "Hey, just checking on you. Want to make sure you're okay," because that shows somebody that you were A, listening, and B, that you care.
Yeah.
And that you're concerned.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
So.
I agree. I think that we're thinking the same thing.
Yes, we are.
But yeah, I agree. I think that those are really important. I try my best to do that. I feel like I'm a good listener. I love helping people. I feel like that's one of my better traits. I think I'm a really great listener, and I'm like that's one of my good traits in a friendship is like I'm a really good listener, and I always like to help people.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think that those are really great things, and following up is something that's so important because when you talk to somebody about how you're feeling and then like they check back, you're like, oh, like,
right? Doesn't that make you feel good when someone says that to you?
No, for sure. Like I appreciate that so much, and like I don't know, I agree.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is so funny.
Oh no.
What role do facial expressions, gestures, and pauses play in communication? Her facial expressions say everything.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
She can't really control her facial expressions.
I can't.
Like
I can't.
At all. I can't. To the point where I'm like, gotta smile. Like
I learned that on Dance Moms, actually.
Yeah.
Because we would be sitting in the audience, and like when you watch the show back, and I would just have this face. So then I started like just trying to be like, just trying to be like I don't know, but yeah, my face tells it all. So like it's bad. It's bad.
All, and especially as I've gotten older, I can tell. I can tell when she's like a little bit mad, but she like won't say it, but I can tell by like her face because her nostrils flare just a little bit, but like in this specific way, like you can only tell. Like my dad knows, I know, and now my best friend knows too because she spent so much time with us that she's like, is your mom? Is she mad? like you could tell. But I think that okay. Anyways, my question.
Yeah,
what role do they play? A big one.
A very big
one. A big
one,
one,
yes.
for sure.
Yeah. Which can be dangerous sometimes, I think.
So. I think that they say a lot, and I think that it is something that's very dangerous for sure, especially if you can't control it.
Yeah, but also like imagine like you're having a conversation with somebody and you're telling them something serious or you're upset about it or whatever, and they're like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so like when someone's talking to you, you also have to.
That's also a part of listening.
Yes.
Is your face and your gestures, and also like nodding, but also not nodding too much because it thinks you're just like, oh, like.
Right, yeah, like whatever.
But it is something that you should be aware of for sure when somebody's talking to you. And like, I think that definitely plays like a very, very big part.
And people, I see this all the time, they're on their phones. Someone's having a conversation with you and they're like on their phones. Like, I mean,
that's
even if they're working or whatever, if you have to like quickly send, like you should acknowledge, like, I'm so sorry, 1 second, I just really have to.
But either way,
you shouldn't be doing that. But like, yeah.
I cannot stand
People do it all the time.
People do it all the time. Whenever somebody's talking to me, I always put my phone down. Even if it's not like a deep or important conversation, if you ever pick up your phone while you're talking to somebody, like I just hate it. I never do it.
Wow.
Well, okay. I do it sometimes, but I've been better about it because you always call me out when I do it. But I think it's something that's so important because I don't appreciate it, so I don't want to do it when I'm talking to people. But especially when it's something that's like important that somebody's talking to you about, you should never do it. Or like the worst for me is like if I'm on FaceTime with somebody and like they go on pause all of a sudden, like while I'm talking, I'm like, oh,
I mean, I don't really.
What are you? So you scrolling on Instagram while I'm talking to you? But yeah, I think
playing video games.
like
Jaden.
What? Yeah,
but
I just called him out.
That's so funny. But the other thing I was going to tell you about like expressions and things like that is eye contact, and along with like the phone, even like if you go to a restaurant. When the server comes over, like you should look at them, and we've had this conversation before, like put your phone down and like look at them, because that's also so disrespectful if someone's talking to you and you're not looking at them. So I think in conversations that goes along with the facial expressions.
Eye contact is a
eye
big
contact,
thing. That's something I have to
not
work
like
on. That I've done
weird, like staring into your soul eye contact.
Do you
but
remember
just
when
like,
I did that one time at the restaurant? I was just staring at her, and she literally was like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm just practicing my eye contact." But I was like, I'm really bad with it, because whenever I get like nervous or whatever, I just like kind of look anywhere but at the person that I'm talking to. So I was trying to practice it, but it just came off as creepy. So gotta find the
balance.
Okay, so who do you think are the best listeners in your life besides me?
Oh,
because
I was
obviously
going to say
know
you.
That's the answer.
I would say probably all the same people I just said.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. I feel like it goes along with the same
Tolly,
thing.
My parents. I mean, honestly, my nephews are good listeners too.
They're
actually
really good listeners, especially Bryce. Especially Bryce.
Yeah, he really is
really great, and he gives really good advice.
He does.
Like randomly, I don't know, like he's always just been very like in tune with his emotions. I feel like, and that's something that's very surprising, I feel like, for a teenage boy in a way.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I feel like
he's very deep.
Yeah, he's very deep. And most, like, not in, like, a bad way, but, like, most, like, teenage boys that I've talked to are not. At all. But he is a great listener. So, shout out Bryce.
Yeah.
We love him. He's a great listener. Listener. Okay, this is something that I think is very, very important. So, obviously, when, like, the girls get together, it can sometimes get a little gossipy. Just naturally.
Yes.
So how do you avoid getting caught up in gossip, but also finding the balance between talking about your feelings versus gossiping? Because there's a very fine line.
Yes.
But it's something that's very important, because I know that, like, even when you start talking about the way that you're feeling, it can turn into something more negative, which I feel like is gossip. So, like, how do you avoid that? Because it's still something that, like, I mean, I'm trying to learn.
I think everybody struggles with that. Because, let's face it, it's easy for people to gossip.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It's very easy.
Unfortunately. But I feel like, I don't know, I think it's basically just stating facts, right? I feel like communicating and communicating your feelings are facts, right? Because those are your feelings.
Yeah.
So I think trying to keep it at like talking about that rather than letting it snowball into other things. It's hard. Yeah. And I even notice it sometimes when you're with people, and then it'll start it as a normal conversation, and then I can hear, and I'm like, it suddenly becomes gossip.
Yeah.
And then I always send her a text.
She's like, don't gossip.
Do not gossip.
Yeah. I agree. I think that there is a big difference, but it can turn into it can turn into something that it's not easy. But I think that, in my opinion, it is just like stating the way that you're feeling is not gossiping at all. But like gossiping is talking about something that you don't even know is true. So if you don't know,
talking about other people, not
talking
yourself.
about other people, talking about situations that you're not involved in, that's gossiping. Or also talking about rumors and stuff that you don't know is true is gossiping. But talking about the way that you're feeling, or like things that people have done to you, or situations that you're involved in that have hurt you, or whatever it might be, that's not gossiping at all.
Right.
And so say you're in a situation where you're fighting with somebody, or somebody did something that hurt you, and you're talking about it with somebody else, they might think that that's gossiping, but it's really not. You're just stating your feelings to them.
Right.
But they're probably just upset with it because they did something wrong or whatever.
Right.
That's not gossiping.
No, that's not gossiping.
That's just saying how you feel. And if they didn't want you to do that, they shouldn't have done anything wrong in the first place. You know what I mean?
Well, right. I mean, and what I always say to you too is like, don't ever say anything that always assume whatever you're saying is going to get back to whoever it is that you're saying it about. Yeah. So don't ever say anything that you would not be able to basically own up to and say to that person's face, like, this is what I'm feeling. So that's like facts, because that's how you're feeling, and that's about you. Once you start talking about somebody else, I feel like that's when it becomes gossip.
No, for sure. I think
so.
Yeah, like somebody else or situations that you're not involved in. So that's just what you have to try and avoid. Yeah.
But it is hard because, I mean, I've been in this situation a million times where you're with like a group of people and then people start the conversation just kind of spins out of control, and then people are like talking about, you know, whoever this person may be or the subject or whatever, and it's hard to be standing there and you don't want to be like, I mean, if it gets to a point, you could always be like, you know, like, this isn't an appropriate conversation or whatever, but a lot of the times I'm just like, wow, yeah. Oh, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not saying anything, but at the same time, you're kind of still allowing it to happen. So I think you just have to be really confident, which is hard for people to stand up to somebody else or say, like, you shouldn't be saying that, or I don't know. And then I think also is like what you hear, you have to cut it off there and then not run to somebody else and then repeat what you heard, because then you're just adding to it and you're making it worse.
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard.
It's very, very hard, but something that's very important. Yeah. Gossip, nothing good comes from gossip.
No.
Okay, I already know the answer to this question, but do you find it easier to express your thoughts and feelings on social media, or are you more private?
I would say I'm more private.
Yeah, she's very private. I also, I feel I'm pretty private.
Yeah, I think so.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like in some situations it could be good to talk about your feelings on social media, but to an extent.
Yeah.
At least for me, I just don't know. Like,
sorry.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a place where you gotta cut it off, I feel like, in my opinion. I feel like expressing your feelings, but I think that's something that's very popular on social media right now, is like talking about situations like going on in your life, like fully like name dropping, talking about situations. I feel like it's really not great. I don't know, in my opinion. I just feel like I keep seeing, like, I know about everybody's relationships now on social media. I feel like that's so weird, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand if you're kind of like in the public eye, maybe, but like still, I feel like we're going very deep into people's lives on social media, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I mean, I think it can be both. I think it's good for people to see other people, maybe especially people with platforms, to be experiencing the same thing that they're experiencing, but I think, in my opinion, more generalized. Like, I don't think like being like, oh, so-and-so, I mean, I don't want to say a situation, but I'm just saying, like, dropping people's names and like calling people out, because it just
makes everything worse, in my opinion. And then other people feel like they're involved in this relationship too, and it kind of just makes everything,
I think it just makes everything worse.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen something good come out of people talking about their breakups or whatever on social, but like specifically talking about it, like with names and stuff, like a general video talking about your feelings, I don't think is bad at all, because I mean, obviously what I'm doing right now is like trying to help people with their feelings and like what they're going through, but never talking about a specific situation. And I feel like that kind of just makes everything worse.
I agree, because you don't know how people are going to react when they hear things, and then it's like all of the sudden everybody's going to like one person's page and like
sending them so much hate, and I feel like it's kind of just like, I don't know, it's very strange. I feel like social media was never really like that, but now I'm scrolling on my For You page and all I see is story times about how everyone's breaking up and getting cheated on, but like I'm like, it's very strange.
Why can't people make videos about like nice things about people? Like,
what happened to the nice things?
I mean, I don't know. But me personally, I am definitely more private. Like,
I agree.
I mean, anything I post is like, it's basically like food or like.
That's so true. She's a great cook.
You. Or like, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Are you more of a texter or a face-to-face communicator? Actually,
I don't know. I think it
don't know.
depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there are situations where here's the weird thing. Confrontation, I do not like it. I try to avoid it. Like with certain situations, like I just would probably like to pretend maybe that it's just not happening and like ignore it because it stresses me out. So in certain situations, I would say texting, which is really not the right answer, but I would say face-to-face is obviously better.
Yeah.
Regardless whether you like it better or not, face-to-face or even a phone call is better.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of sometimes just texting.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I hate face-to-face communication. I hate it. I hate phone calls talking about like serious. I hate it. I'm such a texter.
Yeah.
It's really bad, but I cannot do a phone. Like if I'm ever in like a situation, they're like, "Hey, do you want to like call and talk?" I'm like, "No. I'd rather text." But I think it's just more because when I'm like frustrated or whatever, I get very emotional, and then I can never say exactly what I want to say. So in a text, I can write it all out exactly the way that I want to say it and then send it. But also texting kind of is like because everybody reads it differently.
That's what I was going to say.
Like you can read it in one way and they could be saying it or like trying to say it a completely different way.
Because I think what happens is you read a text
the way that you're feeling.
So if I'm mad, I'm going to read the text like mad when you could be trying to be apologetic or, have a completely different spin on it. So I think that's why, as hard as it is, I mean, because phone calls and face-to-face confrontations or conversations are
hard.
A million times worse.
They're so hard.
But, texting is like basically doing the same thing as like people that make mean comments on they're hiding behind a screen. You're hiding behind a screen. I do it too, but
it's so bad. I just can't.
It's just easier and it's not good.
I can't do the face-to-face. I can't. I really can't.
I know.
I gotta learn how to.
But
I'm really great at writing long text.
So maybe you should write it out for you.
I have like these in
get cards.
No, I can't. I'll just stick with it.
Stick to the text message.
But I'll learn. I'll learn. Okay. Can you think of a time where either you or someone else communicated poorly or didn't communicate at all about a situation? And what was the outcome?
I mean, a million times to both. Not communicating or communicated poorly. Yes. I mean, I think probably the outcome is either you just end up never speaking to the person again.
True.
Or, it drags on way longer than it needed to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you just, and I say all of this fully knowing that I do not do a lot of these things, but like if you just, tackle the problem head on like right away, it's just so much easier and so much, things will get resolved way quicker.
That's true.
But it's hard to do that.
It's hard. But I feel like when you're fighting with someone or whatever, I feel like it's always good to take
24-hour rule.
A little bit, cool off, gather your thoughts, and then talk about it.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that too.
Yeah, you really do. But
yeah,
I think that's something that's very important. But I do agree. I think that dragging it on is the worst thing.
Yeah.
Because it feels like you have this like weight on your shoulders.
Yeah.
But like once you talk about it and move on and communicate your feelings, it just like feels so much better.
Well, because it's also you're stressing over really the unknown. Like you're stressing over not knowing what the other person's thinking, not knowing what the other person's feeling, not knowing what they're going to say. I mean, how many times do you go over a conversation in your head a million times? Like, okay, and then they're going to say this, and then I'm going to say that. And then, first of all, it never ends up playing out that way anyway.
Never.
But, like, that's so much more stress than just actually picking up the phone and having the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say, not as easy to do, but yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. So how would you encourage others to communicate? I feel like we kind of talked about this in general, but just, I feel like what we just said kind of goes along with that.
Yeah.
Not dragging it out.
Not dragging it
Taking
out.
24 hours. I feel like if you're upset or frustrated, take
But with
the
that,
time.
I think like I used to always say like the 24-hour rule. Like if you're like really mad or really upset about something, like taking a step back and just like going to sleep, waiting for the next morning, because you usually wake up with a new perspective. However, I do think that you should let the person know like, hey, I need some time to think about this, or I have to like, I'm not really in the right mindset to respond to this, or what. You should say something, because then if not, then it just looks like you're ignoring them.
Yeah, that's true.
And then that just adds fuel to the fire, right? Because imagine like when people don't answer you, it's like,
it's horrible.
Hello? Like,
it's horrible
okay,
thing.
like they obviously just don't care, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point because,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any advice for people out there who feel like they don't have anyone to talk to? I think this is very important thing.
Yes. I think that people that feel like they don't have anybody to talk to probably don't realize how many people that they probably could talk to in their life, whether it's a teacher or a coach or a guidance counselor or a family member or a friend or a friend's parent. Maybe someone, if you're religious, or, you know, like, I don't know, clubs after school. Like, I feel like, I mean, everybody has somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you just, I think, have to be open to maybe trying to realize who those people are. But if you truly feel like you don't have somebody, I mean, it's scary and it's hard, and I don't know. I mean, I just can't imagine somebody not having somebody. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think you made a good point with the whole teacher thing. I think that if you're in school, especially, I think that there's always, I feel like a lot of people have that like one teacher that they go to, and I feel like that's always a very safe space. It doesn't even have to be like a guidance counselor, because I feel like that's
could be the nurse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or your English teacher. Like, I just think that it's just, you just have to be a little bit vulnerable and willing to open up to somebody. Because I agree. I think that everybody does have somebody. You just have to figure out who that person is.
Yeah. But I also think people have a lot of trust issues.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's a lot of like online options for like therapy, or like people, especially teens, that there's a lot of organizations out there where you can find somebody to reach out to. It doesn't even have to be somebody that you actually know, but a professional. And I know a lot of, like, there's a lot of websites. It's like free.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Organizations, or try to get involved maybe in an organization for kids your age, or even younger kids, or volunteer, work at a camp, you know, the YMCA, they have like after school programs. Like, if you really feel like you don't have somebody, then you almost should try to go out and find somebody.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it sounds way easier than it is, but that's so important, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just joined the youth group at my church, and I was so scared. I was so nervous to go, freaking out before I went. But
it went on for weeks before she actually went.
Yeah, it's very scary. But it was so great once I got there, because I got to talk to a bunch of girls who are in high school.
Going through the same
thing. And now every week or weekend, whatever, we get to go and we get to talk about things that we're going through. And it's so nice, because, I don't know, I also feel like I struggled for a little bit. I do have great friends, great family, but also it is hard to open up and talk to people. So I think that having that like little group made me feel so, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just felt nice.
And you don't go to school. So
I don't.
Like, I feel like there's no after school activities you could join, or clubs or things like that, which is also a good option. But I mean,
it's nice. It's scary, but once you do it, it feels so much better.
Everybody is going through the same thing, and everybody feels the same way. And you're nervous to go, and I was like, you're not the only one. That I'm sure everybody going feels that way. But it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there, and I think that that's, you know, important.
I agree. Well, on the topic of, talking to people, if you guys follow me on TikTok, you know that I started this little series called Dear Presley, where I created this form that anybody can fill out and just talk about things that they're going through or just stuff that's on their mind. And I would do my best to help you out and give you some advice. So this is kind of, this whole podcast series is a little bit of an expansion on that. So I figured it'd be nice to talk about one of those questions on this. So, on the topic of communication, we have a message and it says, Dear Presley, I'm 14 and next summer I'm going to have to move across the country. I've lived in the same town my whole life and I don't really want to move. I met 2 of my best friends when we were 6 and I can't imagine leaving them, not to mention all of my other friends I'd also be leaving behind. I also really like my high school and I don't want to have to start at a new school. I also have family here that means so much to me and I don't want to leave them either. I know in the back of my mind I will eventually come to terms with this decision, but it's still hard. I feel like I can't tell my dad because we're moving for his new job, which is a job he's always wanted and really a great opportunity for him. So I really want to be happy for him, but it's just hard. I know you've gone through the same thing, so I hope you understand how I'm feeling. How do I tell my friends I'm moving across the country? How do I go about feeling like I'm going to miss out on everything? What if we lose contact and they kind of just forget about me? How do I make new friends in high school when everyone already has their clique? Thanks for letting me dump on you. Honestly,
This sounds so familiar.
This is literally exactly how I was. I think I was 14 or 13 when we moved. And
yeah,
it is, in all honesty, one of the hardest things. It was so difficult for me, for sure. And I mean, I feel like I just recently, fully found my way. I mean, not fully, because, I'm still learning. Yeah. But, it takes a minute for sure, and I understand being scared and everything. And I think that you can definitely give some good advice on this because, like I said, I go to you for everything. So
yeah. Well, first, telling your dad how you're feeling wouldn't take away from the fact that you're happy for him and that this is a great opportunity. And I think it's important to tell your parents how you're feeling, especially when you're going through such a big transition in your life. At any age. I mean, we moved across the country and I was definitely not 13, but I had a hard time with it too. Yeah. I mean, I left my entire family. We moved to California from New Jersey. It was just the 3 of us. I didn't have any friends out here or anything like that. So it's hard at any age. So I definitely think it's important to talk to your dad and just let them know how you're feeling, which I'm sure they expect. Yeah. Because I don't think anybody would expect you not to feel the way you're feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that same thing. You'll have an advantage because you'll go to school. Maybe there's I know even when people go to college, there's groups on social media for the college, or maybe there's some high school groups, or look into maybe joining an after-school program, or, depending on your interest or things like that, maybe, I don't know. I mean,
it's hard.
It's hard. It's definitely hard, but again, everybody's in the same boat and everybody's starting a new school year. And I mean, I think there's more nice people out there than there are not nice. Mm-hmm. And I think that especially now, I feel like people are more willing to accept people.
I agree. I think so too.
I don't know. Just try and maybe get involved in your school and find people that have the same interests as you.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's hard.
Even not having it, I don't know. Whoa, English. But I think that volunteering is something that is really great, because I also feel like it's the environments that you're in, you'll find good people. So when you're volunteering, I feel like those are mostly people who are open and willing to making new friends, like-minded people. So people with the same morals as you and same interests is also really great. So I think that that's something that I learned too, is surrounding myself with people that I want to be friends with, and that's how I'll find the truest friendships. So I think that volunteering, after school activities, and just trying new things, and it's definitely scary making new friends for sure, but
you have to be open to it.
You have to be open.
And also maybe your dad has people that he works with that has kids the same age, which maybe is a thing. But also as far as like your friends from home, I mean, social media is so great for that. FaceTime, you know, watching people's stories, texting. I feel like there's so much available to communicate with people in all different places.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's good. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be hard to see your friends all together and you're not there, but you'll eventually get your own brand new life, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you're still friends with them, but like then you'll have, you know, you're just adding to your friend group.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not going to, you don't have to like,
you won't
lose
your
those
friends,
to make new ones. And it's definitely hard, but it goes along with the communication. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've had long distance friendships before, and it's all about communication.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, you have to like put in like the work.
The
like, I know it's
effort,
not
yes.
work, but like the effort, because that's how you maintain the friendship. So calling, texting, checking in, that's something that's so important. Not like, I don't know, ignoring. Like, if it means something to you, you have to put in the
make the
effort
time
for it.
Yeah.
So I think that, and if it's the right friendship, they'll put in the effort too.
Yeah.
So I think it'll also show a lot of the truth in the friendship too. If they reach out to you, and I think that they will. And I, like you said, I think you talked about that very well.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard. Change is hard, but change is also good.
That's true.
Right? So
change is scary, but
it is, but you'll be okay. And, you know,
it's good for you.
You'll make new friends and it'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you have it, guys. Thank you, Mommy, for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having me on
and
your
thank
podcast.
you guys so much for watching and listening. If you guys want to submit a Dear Presley, you can. The link is in my description, my bio of literally every social media platform. I would love to help you guys out as best as I can. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to Cool Conversations with Presley, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.